the overall pattern of existence that gives form and meaning to the modern American, dark colors and designs, too often lost a broad perspective of day-to-day living. The proper care and guidance of our children. The menace of broken homes. The question of juvenile delinquency. These are some of the obscure problems that form the hard core of our future as a nation. Boy in trouble. In the minds of many, a bad boy, fit only for reform school or police authority for punishment and social vengeance. Some 40 years ago, there was a young priest in Omaha, Nebraska, not long here from his native Ireland, who believed that there was no such thing as a bad boy. He said it loud and often, and on a capital of 90 borrowed dollars, he outfitted what he called a boys' home, dedicated to that belief. With a start of 5 boys, 3 out of juvenile court and 2 picked off the streets, from that shabby building in the heart of the city, Father Flanagan built well, through the years, to Boys Town, a place called home by about 1,000 boys from every state in the Union, a miniature city on the Lincoln Highway 10 miles west of Omaha, Nebraska. This is Father Flanagan's dream come true, a place where homeless, neglected, and unloved boys could find the day-to-day affection, care, and companionship summed up in the word home. He was beloved God and man, and his name is in benediction. The memory of him shall not pass away. Today, as a living memorial to Father Flanagan, the principles of life, work, and education upon which the home was founded are carried forward by Father Wagner, General Director of Boys Town. His is a dedicated life, serving God and country in the care and guidance of boys without roots, without homes, other than the home he makes for them here. At Boys Town, education has 2 primary aims. 1, a good education should teach a boy how to live, and 2, it should teach him how to make a living. Both are considered essential to his well-being. Each boy is placed in one of 3 general programs: college preparatory, vocational, farming. Trades and farm students spend half of each day in their specialized fields. College preparatory students devote full time to scholastic courses. Academic fitness alone does not qualify a teacher for a position in the Boys Town school system. For these boys, the product of broken homes, have special needs in terms of human relationships and emotional understanding. The teacher at Boys Town must be equipped by native endowment and training to respond to those needs from the heart as well as from the mind. As in most schools throughout the country, the majority of Boys Town students do not expect to go on to college. They must be prepared, therefore, to earn a living after graduation. Today, the vocational department of Boys Town offers practical training in 15 essential trades, ranging from printing to automobile mechanics, preparing the boy for the real workaday world which he will one day enter. Here he becomes familiar with machines, tools, and working conditions. He experiences the thrill of working with his hands, and he learns that there can be intelligence in his fingers as well as in his mind. Upon completion of a full course in any one of the trades taught here, the boy receives a high school diploma and a trade certificate which qualifies him to enter his chosen field with a 2-year apprentice rating. The agricultural program at Boys Town has developed into one of the best equipped, scientifically operated farms in the Middle West, with main crops of corn, wheat, oats, produce, and alfalfa, dairy products, eggs, pork, and beef, most of it consumed on the premises. Basically, the farm is run by men of skill and training in scientific farming and serves as a practical working schoolhouse for those boys who have chosen agriculture as their life's work. It is a rare year that does not bring the 4-H Club of Boys Town at least one award, and usually more, from state and county fairs and from nationally known livestock expositions. Give a boy something he likes to do, and the chances are you'll wind up with a healthy, happy, well-adjusted youngster. Many a homeless and neglected boy gets into trouble for no more reason than that he has never had a chance to find himself. He has been pushed around, backed into a corner, and robbed of any feeling of importance. Like this boy, only recently arrived in Boys Town and not yet adjusted to life here. Healthy social adjustment is not achieved overnight. Sometimes, sad to say, it is never achieved. If you want to know what kind of a future your boy will have, examine his everyday living habits. Does he tend to withdraw and isolate himself from boys his own age? Does he refuse to listen to reason and always insist on having his own way? Does he give up easily in the face of difficulties? These are some of the problems investigated and worked through by the welfare department at Boys Town. Fundamentally, the program here is based on counseling and teamwork between the boys, the welfare staff, and the teachers. Most of these boys originally came to Boys Town weighed down by a feeling of inferiority induced by shameful neglect and lack of sympathy in their previous environment. Here at Boys Town, every effort is made to instill in the boy a feeling of self-confidence, of warm acceptance and security. In short, to provide an environment that comes closest to a real home.
We in the welfare department and on the teaching staff at Boys Town know that the boy with mental and emotional problems needs help, and we try to see that he gets it. We know, too, that the feeling of inferiority in a boy is a tragic thing. It constitutes one of our major problems here at Boys Town. A boy will know he is worth something only if he can feel wanted, if he is accepted and respected by those associates every day. We feel that these factors of encouragement and social acceptance are as essential to normal growth in the boy as the food he eats and the air he breathes. The job, as we see it, is to cultivate in the boy a true sense of values in terms of himself and his relationship to others. The important thing to us is not how much talent or ability he has, but what he learns to do with what he has. Free play activity is one of the first and most important lessons in child care and guidance. Through play, he learns how to give as well as take. He finds he can't always have his own way, but must yield to the pressure of the group if he wants to continue as a part of that group. In other words, to belong. This training and discipline enables him in later life to adjust to the requirements of business, social life, and good citizenship.
In the extensive and intensive intramural program, there is room in one or more sports for every boy in Boys Town. This great field house can accommodate hundreds of boys engaged in basketball, wrestling, handball, gymnastics, and volleyball, even while indoor varsity football practice is going on. Out on the track and other play fields, in every season of the year, there is always something taking place. In every sport, at every age level, in house-against-house league competition, or on a most informal and sometimes hilariously haphazard choose-up sides basis. Town. As for the interscholastic competition, football is the big sport, with Boys Town teams year in and year out holding their own and more against some of the crack high school teams from coast to coast. In the early days, Father Flanagan used to say, you've got to take the hungry look out of a boy's eyes before you can start helping him find himself. That tradition has been extended into a maxim that says, feed them first, feed them well, and half your worries are over. This, then, is feeding time at Boys Town. 3 times a day, big, healthy meals planned by expert dietitians and prepared by experienced cooks in ample quantities for growing boys. The age of adolescence is a critical period in a boy's life. Physical and psychological changes are taking place in him. He is growing into a sharper awareness of selfhood. He has social needs that must be filled after school hours and off the playing field. The social side of life at Boys Town takes in a varied program that ranges from weekly movies for the entire population of Boys Town to formal and informal proms, house dances, and parties for the older boys. Religion forms a very important part in the boy's life at Boys Town. Every boy, whether Catholic, Protestant, or Jew, attends his respective religious instruction 2 periods a week. This chapel, donated by a noble and generous lady since passed away, is one of the most beautiful houses of God in America. A monument not only to the citizens of Boys Town, but to all underprivileged children everywhere. In this sanctified building is heard the glorious music of the Boys Town Choir. A group of 60 fresh young voices heard every year on tour in the major concert halls of the nation, from Carnegie Hall in New York to Philharmonic Auditorium in Los Angeles, California.
About a year after my father died, my mother married again. I couldn't seem to get along at home anymore. I started hanging around the streets, looking for trouble, and most times finding it. Some social service lady wrote to Boys Town about me, and the next thing I knew, here I was, and not liking it. I figured to give it a play for a week or 2 on account of my mother, and then light out somewhere, anywhere. But somehow, I stuck around. No walls, no locked gates to shut me in, everything wide open. Nobody watching. Funny how you get to feel about that. And no uniforms, just regular clothes. It made a big difference. I stayed. Well, it's almost 5 years now, and I'll be graduating soon. High school diploma and apprentice machinist card. I made a couple of the teams and sang baritone in the concert choir. I've seen plenty of other kids come here. Some by train or bus, or hobo style, or hitchhiking on their own. Lots of them in pretty bad shape. A few, not many, from juvenile court. They all made out okay, most of them. How do we feel about this place? Well, it's tough to talk about. What it means to us, where we might have wound up if we hadn't come here to live. It's home, but that doesn't say it all. We found things here we never figured we'd ever have. The kind of things other guys have, who've got real homes and other kids in the family. About Boys Town? Well, all I can say is, and believe me, that's plenty. It's a place called home.
Every year, almost 500,000 people come to visit. They find that Boys Town is not a correctional institution, that it doesn't belong to any individual or group, or to any civic or governmental agency. They find that Boys Town belongs to and is self-governed by the boys who live here and call it their home. How then is Boys Town supported? Not by money from city, county, state, or federal government, nor from civic or church groups, but entirely by donations from people the world over. People who want to share in providing the unwanted, neglected boy with a home, an education, and a start in life on a footing with more fortunate boys. These citizens of Boys Town know that private donations built the roof over their heads, put the food on their tables, gave them the clothes they wear. But there is no feeling among them of accepting this generosity as their due. There is dignity here, lightheartedness and friendliness, because they feel themselves not objects of public charity, but co-workers in a great social project, building toward a better life in the years to come.
Well, John, I guess you'll never forget that tree.
Hardly, Mother.
Does that arm ever bother you?
No, it's all right. Old Doc Crandall did a mighty good job.
Well, I'll never forget that day. You on the ground over there, just like you were dead. And Frank up in the tree, yelling his head off because he couldn't get down.
I guess we were pretty wild kids.
It's a wonder you both weren't killed. You spoilt my whole birthday, too.
But we've tried to make up for it. And you've had a good many happy birthdays since then, Ma.
Yes, but I had hoped that the two of you would be home together for this one.
Well, that's what we planned. But Frank called just before I left and said he had to go away on a very important business trip. He'll probably telephone before long.
I hope so. I know he'd come if he could.
Mother!
Yes, dear?
Telephone!
Oh, come.
Frank is calling!
Oh, my goodness. Yes, this is Mom. Oh, how good it is to hear your voice. Oh, no, my boy. I don't have birthdays anymore. John. Oh, yes, dear. He got here this morning. What? Is he all right? Oh, my goodness. I wish you could have seen the breakfast he ate this morning. And the lunch, too. What did you say, dear?
I said I just finished my dinner. No, Mother, I'm not mixed up.
But, dear, I don't understand what you mean. Where are you? What? He's telephoning from London. You said London, didn't you, Frank?
That's right, Mother. I flew across. Sure, I can look out the hotel window and see Buckingham Palace.
Well, what do you know about that? Yes, dear. Everyone is fine. Oh, speak to the rest of the folks, will you, Frank?
Hello, Frank.
Okay, Frank. Be good. Here's Mother again.
Yes, Frank. Yes? All right, son. Well, you take care of yourself. I will. Goodbye, son. Doesn't that beat everything?
Oh, well, there you are, eh?
Say, Dad, we talked to Uncle Frank in London.
Is that right?
We certainly did, Bill.
Think of it. Me on a farm, talking to my son thousands of miles away in London.
That's right, Mom. You'd be surprised at the number of overseas calls we handle. Plus the thousands of calls from all over the country.
My, it's wonderful to be able to talk like that.
It's warm in here. Let's go outside.
Right, Mom.
All right, come on, Bill. You can't do much till the truck gets back anyway.
Oh, it's nice and cool out there.
Yes, it is, Mother.
Sit down, John. Sit down.
Come on, Bill. There's room here.
Oh, I'll just sit down over here.
Open your collar, John, and be comfortable.
Yeah, I think I will.
Uncle John, when I grow up, I'm going to be a telephone man like you.
Well, that's swell, Tommy. There's always a place for a good man. You'll like telephone work.
See, Mom?
You, think you could start work on Monday?
Stop teasing him, John. You remember how mad it used to make you when your father did that to you?
You're right, Mother.
Tommy, go over there and sit down. Stop bothering your Uncle John.
Well, you can be sure of one thing, Tommy. When you're a grown man, there'll be new conditions and new ideas to keep telephone men busy.
Well, I can see plenty to be done right out here in the country.
Yes, there's still lots of farmers who want telephone.
That's true, Mary. We're putting in rural telephones as fast as we can. The Bell system put in over 300,000 new rural telephones during the war years.
I guess that wasn't easy, with materials hard to get and the shortage of manpower.
Well, you said it. But what's been done is only the beginning. Now we're planning to double the number of rural telephones, to install at least 1 million more within the next few years.
The Carters are dying to have one.
Well, I'm afraid they'll have to wait a long while.
They live way out, miles away from any telephone line.
Now, hold on. We've already built quite a lot of new lines. We're building more all the time. Our lines will be within easy reach of practically everybody out in the country before long. Why, just a couple days ago, I was talking to some people over beyond Willow Creek. They wanted to
comes within our free construction allowance. This is your place here. Here's our line running along the highway.
That's good.
Mr. Roberts, your place is some distance up the road from here. Mr. Martin's place is just across the road from you.
Roberts and I have to pay for this difference. Guess you'll have to forget about us.
Let's figure a minute. I think we can bring you in under the wire.
How do you mean?
When we average out the free construction allowance for each of you, there'll be more than enough to run the line to your places.
Well, now, that's certainly fair of you.
Yes.
Guess we could do business on those terms.
How about the lines across the fields?
Well, that depends on what you want. Depends on whether we can plow in the wire, on how the poles are set, on just how you want it done.
I see.
Well, that's an example of what's happening right along.
You mean those people way over there beyond Willow Creek got telephone service without having to pay extra for it?
That's right. All it cost them was the regular service connection charge that all telephone customers pay.
Why, John, at that rate, anyone ought to be able to have a telephone.
Well, Mother, we're doing our best to see that all those who want telephones can get them.
This will often require the construction of some new lines. But the various improved construction methods that we're now using and other improvements that'll come from new experience will help to speed up the job. We're already using a newly developed high-strength steel wire for rural telephone lines. This wire can be strung on poles as much as 450 feet apart, instead of the 200-foot spaces used formerly. Now you can see that this reduction helps to save a lot of poles. The new wire also has greater resistance to ice and sleet and high winds. And of course, this means more dependable service year in and year out. Then there's another kind of wire that can be used without any poles at all. It's a rubber-covered wire that can be plowed into the ground. A special plow opens up the ground and lays the wire at a safe distance below the surface, all in one operation. Under proper soil conditions, this special kind of wire can be used for telephone lines along the main highway or as the connection from the main line across the farmer's property to his home. With other improved methods of construction, these things are simplifying the job of extending our lines.
But would you believe it if I told you there are ways of providing service without the use of telephone lines?
Are you kidding, Uncle John?
No.
Explain yourself, John, before the boy's eyes pop out of his head.
Okay. I'll tell you one way it can be done. Stand up, Tommy. Look over there. You know what those wires are for?
They're power wires. We get the electric current for our lights from those wires.
Yes, and power to run the feed grinder and the saw.
The electric range, the washing machine, and lots of other things.
That's right, Tommy. Well, telephone scientists have taught us how to harness power lines like those so they can be used for telephoning as well as for transmitting power.
Gee!
You mean you can talk over power wires at the same time your lights are turned on?
That's right.
Gosh, I never heard anything like that before.
We call it a power line telephone system.
How does it work?
Well, as I understand it,
An ordinary power line, like those you see running through most rural areas, to carry the electric current for lights and so on, can be made to carry telephone conversations by the installation of some special equipment at the place where a telephone is to be connected to the power line. Some of this special apparatus protects the telephone to make it just as safe to use as any other telephone. We connect the telephone line here and install the telephone. The current to operate telephones is generated by the telephone apparatus itself. The character of this current is quite different from that of the power current. Nevertheless, the line carries both power current and telephone current at the same time. The two currents do not interfere with each other as they travel over the wire together during a telephone conversation. It's also important that, when necessary, we have a way of separating the two currents so that the power current doesn't affect the telephone. In a way, the idea is something like separating milk into cream and skim milk. The device which separates the combined electric currents makes the power current go where it should and the telephone current where it should. We have been working on this project for some time, along with the people from the Rural Electrification Administration and the electric power companies. Although the war interfered with its complete development,
we can go ahead now and put in power line telephone service, if that's the best way to serve a particular location.
Boy, that's juicy.
It's what?
Juicy means it's good.
That's a new one on me.
Say, we've all been reading about the radio telephones that were used in the war. Why can't you use something like that and do away with all your wires and poles?
Radio telephones may be the answer in some places, Bill.
for instance, out in the wide open spaces, or where the farms are very big and the houses are miles apart, or where there are rivers, or other conditions that make it impractical to build any kind of pole line, radio telephones can be installed. You'll be able to use them just as readily as any other telephone.
No tuning in or no twisting of dials. You can put in your call and be connected with all the other telephones throughout the country, just as you would from your telephone right here.
Gee, Uncle John, I bet everyone would want a radio telephone when they know you've got them.
I wouldn't say that.
Tommy always wants something that's new or different.
I know.
Well, but from a practical point of view, it doesn't matter particularly which kind of telephone you have.
Well, what I'm interested in most is that our telephone connects with all the other telephones.
That's right. And it's important that you make your call pretty much the same way, no matter what telephone is used.
I get it.
Usually, people are willing to leave it up to us to decide the particular kind of telephone system to install.
Well, John, I guess with all your newfangled ideas, it will still be a farm telephone.
Now, Mother, you ought to give us more credit than that. Didn't we take out your hand-cranked telephone a while back and put in the new kind for you?
Shucks, that's not so much to do, is it?
Well, if all you're talking about is switching the telephone sets, no. But you have to realize that in order to make the change here on the farm, it was necessary to install equipment in the central office. Equipment that's quite different from that which was previously used. It was also necessary to change all the other telephones that connect to the office. But that's all a part of the other side of our job, giving better service to people who already have farm telephones, as well as new service for those who don't have it. In some sections, where it works out best, we're putting in dial telephones on farms, and we're making other improvements too. Rural lines that have been temporarily serving more than the usual number of customers are being changed to make possible a reduced number of telephones on each line. Another thing, we're changing ringing systems so that not everyone on the line hears your ring when someone's trying to call you. Improving service for all rural customers and putting in more farm telephones is one of our most important jobs right now. It's a job the whole Bell system is tackling. For instance, as soon as the Bell telephone laboratories finished the important work they did in developing radar and other highly complicated things needed for the war effort, they went back to their regular job, finding ways to make telephone service for everybody better and more useful. They're doing a lot in farm service. They developed the power line telephone system equipment and farm radio telephone apparatus. They even plant a field of poles now and then so they can harvest a crop of facts that will lead to better poles for farm telephone lines. And the Western Electric Company has its part in the job. It has turned its big production facilities to the job of producing the tremendous quantities of communication equipment needed to improve and extend telephone service. They get suggestions and ask questions in typical sections of the country to find out what farmers need and want. Rural telephone service in this country is more highly developed than anywhere else in the world, and it's still growing.
Goodness, it'll cost a lot of money to build new lines and make all those improvements that you've been talking about.
Yes, about $100 million in the next few years alone.
Well, imagine that. My goodness, if anybody had talked about doing things like that when I was a girl, we'd have thought there was something wrong with them.
Why, Grandma?
Well, perhaps because we didn't know much about telephones then. I know I was 18 years old before I ever saw one.
Is that right, Grandma?
Mm-hmm.
After hearing Mother talk to all her friends, it's rather hard for Tommy to imagine her without a telephone.
Well, a little gossip is good for the soul.
Yes, we'd be lost without our telephone.
Say, Mom,
Hmm?
seems to me I remember when you weren't so keen about having one.
Well, experience is a great teacher, my boy. I know better now.
You're right. Experience counts in pretty near everything. The telephone has become an important institution in the rural life of America.
You said it.
You know, Grandma,
Yes?
I think the telephone is here to stay.
Oh, you
saw her do it. I was the manager. I saw her come into my store, put a can of peaches in her handbag, and walk out. Well, maybe you're the way I am. I hate a crook. I've been in the grocery business a long time, and I've experienced a lot of shoplifting. But this was the most obvious example of it I'd ever seen. I know there are a good many legal technicalities to keep in mind in dealing with pilferers, but this time I was too sore to think of them. I simply told this lady exactly what I had seen. I suppose I expected her to admit it. They usually do when you catch them dead to rights. But not this one. She acted as if she didn't know what I was talking about. Until I mentioned the can of peaches. But then, why, of course, a can of peaches. I was really annoyed. But I still thought I'd let her just pay for the peaches and go. She had other ideas. She proceeded to prove, with the checker as a witness, that she had bought the can of peaches. She even had the receipt. She told me in so many words that she was going to bring suit against the company for false arrest. I realized too late what had happened. She really had bought a can of peaches earlier, and had made a point of bringing that fact to the checker's attention. She'd got rid of that can of peaches, and had come back and staged a theft where I would see it. I had been framed, and there was just one slim hope of getting out of it. By some miracle, I might see where she had thrown away that first can of peaches. Just one chance in a million. There was a man sitting in a parked car outside. He asked me what I was looking for, and I told him. He had just happened to see the lady in question throw something down the sewer at the corner. I asked him to keep watching the sewer so he could testify that no one else had thrown anything into it. And I went back and got somebody to help me open the sewer and search it. That was the end of talk about a lawsuit. And it made me think a lot about the problem of pilferage. Everybody with any experience in a self-service store gets to recognize certain signs. When I see a woman carrying her change purse in her hand so she won't have to open her handbag at the check stand, well, you can't blame me for wondering what she might have in the handbag that she doesn't want us to see. We all know that folks who wear heavy coats don't always do it to keep out the chill air. But you can't always believe what you see. Suppose you were employed in a store and you saw this going on right under your nose. Would you take immediate and definite action? In the first place, such action must never be taken by anyone except the manager. And anyway, you might find yourself framed the way I almost was. What's the answer? I don't pretend to have it. Petty thieves are sometimes such nice people. I've had folks I've known for a long time come up, slap me on the back, offer me cigarettes, and treat me like the best friend they had in the world. And then, not 5 seconds later, steal something. But I know that doesn't mean that a customer is a crook. Just because she's nice and I've known her a long time. Everybody has his own pet theory of how to deal with pilferage. Some companies use detectives. While the detectives are in the store, pilferage apparently drops off. But when they move on, it picks up again. All the pet theories combined haven't stopped pilferage yet. I'm told that shoplifters took $80 million worth of merchandise out of stores in the United States last year. After I had nearly been trapped into a suit for false arrest, I tried to make a study of shoplifters. I tried to find a common denominator among them all that might be a clue to putting them out of business. I realized what every manager knows, that pilferers hate to be watched. That gave me an idea. If shoplifters don't like being watched, I was just the boy who would spend plenty of time watching them. This system had only one flaw. It probably discouraged pilferers, but it discouraged honest customers as well. Still, it seemed as if I were on the right track. I realized that the threat of arrest alone is no discouragement to a thief. Every crook thinks he's too smart to get caught. Other crooks maybe, but not him. Of course, there is one way to be sure.
Attention, everybody. Attention, everybody. You are being watched. Every customer in this store is constantly being watched.
There's no use scaring potential pilferers if you offend your good customers at the same time. But most experience shows that watching these people, letting them know they're being watched, is the only sure method of stopping them. Well, as I say, there's no cure-all for this evil. But one day, something happened that made me think I might have a real clue at last. I saw an old customer of mine looking for something she apparently couldn't find. I went up and spoke to her as I always do, and she answered me the same way. It had happened hundreds of times to both of us in that store. She was looking for something that wasn't on the shelves that morning. I said I'd get it for her. I didn't think of it as anything special, but it turned out she did. She said it made her feel good to know that I had been watching her, ready to give a little additional help if she needed it. It made her feel good to know that I had been watching her. She had appreciated what she called my thoughtfulness and courtesy, and she was an honest customer. I got to wondering how dishonest customers would feel about the same kind of thoughtfulness, the same kind of courtesy. I find they don't like it. Shoplifters must be left alone or they can't function. Courtesy upsets them, because for us to offer assistance, we must watch for customers who need it. We must watch. That's the point. We must watch for chances to be helpful. Dishonest customers can't stand that. To a crook, courtesy is something to be angry about, if you can believe such a thing. We actually use courtesy to keep customers away from our store, but they're the bad customers. And remember, it's the same courtesy that keeps our good friends coming back. Well, I suppose we can't eliminate petty thievery from human nature just by giving our customers extra service. But I've found very few problems in dealing with the public that can't be at least partially solved by courtesy. And I believe that pilferage is one of them.
Few sports practiced in the United States have a more vocal or more loyal group of regular cash customers than has boxing, which has been manipulated by the canny showmen who control it into a $14 million industry. The fight game's revenue does not come from ticket sales alone. Motion picture rights bring in large sums of money. Radio rights are also profitable. And today, television has opened up another field for exploitation. All these extra revenues provide a rich cut for promoters and managers, and even something for the fighters. Though boxing is big business today, up to 50 years ago, men fought each other mainly for sport, with perhaps a wager on the side. The first code of rules, drawn up by the Englishman Broughton in 1743, brought some order into the prize ring, though for over a century more, pugilists hammered away at each other with bare knuckles for little more reward than a champion's belt. Boxing became big business for the first time in 1906, when Battling Nelson fought Joe Gans for the lightweight championship of the world. Promoter of the Gans-Nelson match was the late, great Tex Rickard, who proved for all time that boxing was big business. With his Dempsey Carpentier Championship bout at Jersey City in 1921, Rickard established the first $1 million gate. Rickard's smart promotion brought fame and fortune to a dozen champions. One of the few prize fighters in history who have made fortunes and hung on to them is Gene Tunney, who retired undefeated in 1928 and is today a highly successful businessman. Another is Tunney's old rival, Jack Dempsey, one of the great fighters of all time, whose unique position as a public figure enabled him, after his retirement, to become independently wealthy. Most highly regarded today among the small group of men who have won international fame in the prize ring is Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber, who retained his title as world heavyweight champion longer than anyone in boxing history. From the time he first won the championship in 1937, Louis risked his title 25 times, and the ritual of signing contracts for each bout has been built up into a frenzied national ceremony.
Just a second. Wait a minute, get down just a minute. Okay. Commissioner. Hey, off the table. Well, right. One second. One more, please. One more shot. Hey, just a close-up.
The well-publicized careers of great fighters have captured the imagination of many an American kid who, seeing himself as a potential champion, stands ready to take on any rival in the block. To keep such boys occupied and to keep their urge to fight within the realm of sportsmanship is one of the aims of New York City's Police Athletic League, which offers in its varied recreational activities both outdoor sports and gymnasium work, including free instruction in the manly art of self-defense.
Now, when you throw the left jab, you snap it. Fast, with pep, and straight out. All right, let me see you try it now. Straight, fast, snapping, fast, pep, speed, faster, snap, get through. Oh, 2, fast, 1, 2, hoop.
In New York's overcrowded neighborhoods, the PAL has established over 100 recreational centers, supervised by qualified physical instructors.
All right, fellas, hold it. That was pretty good, Charlie, but you're a little tired. You haven't him lean his weight on you, and he's heavy. Now, if you must clinch, put your weight on him. All right? Got it? All right, fellas, mix it up.
In carrying out its program for the young, the Police Athletic League is supported by the voluntary contributions of the public, who have found that it pays dividends in preventing juvenile delinquency. Though the PAL regularly shows its young champions in free exhibition matches, it never encourages them to take up boxing professionally. Across the United States, plenty of youngsters every year go on from amateur boxing to boxing as a livelihood. One among the thousands who made the switch over was a kid in a Midwestern town who, by the time he was 19, was already getting to be known among the fight fans. His name was Billy Shea. One evening, a shrewd visiting manager named Mike Womer caught Billy in a winning bout. After the fight, Mike hustled round to the dressing room.
That boy didn't give you much trouble.
No, I had him figured out pretty early.
Not a bad cut on your eye, is it?
No, just a little one.
You know, you look pretty good tonight. How long have you been fighting?
About 2 years. Why?
Well, do you ever think of boxing professionally?
Well, I don't know.
You know, there's an awful lot of money in the fight game for a smart kid.
Yeah, I guess there is.
Tell you what I want to do.
Once he was signed by Womer, Billy became Mike's property. Like all fight managers, Mike was then legally entitled to 1/3 of Billy's ring earnings. Billy found Mike surprisingly generous in advancing money and staking him to equipment. But these, as well as all other expenses for the two of them, were duly noted down to be deducted from Billy's share of future winnings. Mike started his protege on a program of training he was never to break away from as long as he remained in the boxing game.
Hold the phone. Hold the phone.
What's the matter?
You're making two mistakes. Number one, you're dropping your hands when you punch. Keep your hands up when you punch to protect yourself. Number two, you're forking too close to the bag. Hold it a minute.
Okay.
Get it? Now let's go. Come on. That's better. That's it. Bam. Keep 'em up.
Billy's career began with a tough schedule of small-time fights. Mike knew that the best way to ensure the victories necessary to build up Billy's reputation was to match him against run-of-the-mill fighters, whom he could almost certainly beat.
So you're bringing him right along?
He's doing all right.
How about my boy in Shea, 2 weeks from Friday?
Is he good?
Is he good? He's got a left like Tony Zale. Moves along nice. Hits hard.
No dice. My kid's still green. I'm not going to take any chances.
Look, I'll give it to you straight. My boy's got a glass jaw. He's just lost 3 in a row. Your kid'll look okay.
Good. It's a deal.
For months, with Mike giving the orders and arranging the bouts, Billy plodded through the conventional routine of dreary jumps from tank town to tank town, of one-night stands in fourth-rate clubs, grabbing a bus the next day to catch up with another date. Swinging through the sticks, Billy began piling up a record. 15 wins, most of them knockouts, as opposed to 5 draws and only 3 losses. Gradually, he was creeping up out of the preliminaries into the main events. But always, Mike's eye lay on the fight ahead, the bout that might lead to the big time and the big money. And the big money was in New York. In New York, like every young fighter before him who had challenged the big town, Billy was aiming at one goal. Through Manhattan's huge Madison Square Garden lies the boxer's way to glory.
Well, there she is, kid.
Boy.
Big enough for you?
Plenty.
In New York, preparing for the day when he would get his chance to fight in the garden, Billy entered under Mike's guidance upon a world wholly new to him. A world in which boxing not only is big business, but is almost entirely under the control of one organization. Currently acting for the fabulous Mike Jacobs as head of the 20th Century Sporting Club Incorporated is Saul Strauss, Coming to terms with Strauss is a must to any manager who wants to get his boy a fight in Madison Square Garden. Today, the 20th Century Club is in a position to sign up almost any fighter it wants, for no one can compete with the purses its fighters get, ranging from $150 a bout to a fat percentage of the box office take. New York's tight hold on the fight game is bitterly resented by the National Boxing Association, an organization of state and municipal boxing commissions. President of the NBA is New Jersey's Commissioner Abe Green, who is seeking to establish a single national authority to rule over U.S. boxing.
The NBA and its 57-member commissions are striving to bring about greater uniformity in the regulation and procedure of professional boxing. This goal could be assured if the New York State Athletic Commission, one of the only two not now affiliated, would join us in working toward it. But the New York Commission continues to remain haughty and aloof. But with or without New York, the NBA is determined to establish boxing as a well-governed sport, worthy of the national audience it attracts.
Undisturbed by the NBA's charge of non-cooperation is the chairman of the New York State Athletic Commission, Colonel Eddie Egan. A former Olympic boxing champion, Egan claims that his commission has no authority to share with any other body the power to regulate boxing in New York, bestowed upon it by a legislative act in 1920. This power is implemented by its right to grant or withhold licenses. Every boxer knows that in his profession, the commission's word is law. Once each week, Egan and his fellow commissioners meet to pass on the qualifications of managers, boxers, and others applying for licenses. As a result of such watchfulness, the commission claims, the standards of the fight game have improved greatly in the past 2 decades and are continuing to improve. To make sure that contracts are lived up to and that bouts are conducted fairly, the commission checks the credentials and the physical condition of each contestant on the day he is to fight.
£173.
But despite the supervision of professional boxing by the New York Commission and those of other states, the sport is still plagued by fixers, grafters, tin horns, and racketeers, attracted by the big money in the game.
Mike, that boy of yours fights the main event of Big Doe, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be a tank job.
He dives in the 5th.
Don't stall, Mac. It's that or nothing.
The prevalence of gamblers and racketeers in professional boxing has elicited plenty of violent condemnation. Mincing no words are such critics as Manhattan's District Attorney Frank S. Hogan and Jimmy Cannon, forthright sports columnist of the New York Post.
I think boxing is the swill barrel of sports. It's a dirty racket in many instances, and that's the way it's going to be, as long as a hoodlum figures he can make a buck by muscling into it. It's not going to change either, as long as managers and promoters refuse to cooperate fully with the district attorney and the boxing commissioner and are faithful to the code of the underworld, which says a man who talks truthfully to a public official is a stool pigeon. But if the managers and the promoters would cooperate with the district attorney's office and the boxing commissioner, I'm certain Hogan would be able to clean it up immediately.
I think you're right, Jimmy.
The big prizes of the prize ring are poverty, insanity, deformity, and sometimes death.
Among those who believe that boxing is dangerous is Dr. Harrison Martland, Chief Medical Examiner of Essex County, New Jersey, and a pioneer in the study of punch drunkenness.
A single blow on the head or jaw often causes hemorrhage in the tissues of the brain or possible interference with its blood oxygen supply. Repeated sharp blows may well result in serious mental or physical injury, or even, as is too often the case, death.
Opposed to the detractors of boxing are such staunch defenders of the game as Jim Farley, former Postmaster General and once New York State's Athletic Commissioner.
Well, it's up to those of us who love boxing to see that criticism is kept to fair proportions. Everyone connected with the game should do everything they possibly can to see that the regulations are carried out properly. The sportsmanship of the game, the bold, aggressive fighter in the ring, is a fine thing to watch. It's part of our American way of life.
Though professional boxing remains the most specialized of America's major sports, its hold on its fans is undiminished by criticism or contempt.
Next bout.
For to the Billy Shays of the world, the fight game, with its dangers and its rewards, remains a glittering career, offering fame and fortune to the boy who is not afraid to risk all he has, willing to stake everything on the big chance.
Come on and go there, bull boy.
Time marches on.
Howard, can you drop in the office for a minute?
Sure. Be right there, Dan.
What's up? Have a bad time in the executive meeting? Bad enough.
What's the crisis this time?
Oh, there's no crisis. Yet. You know when we went over those sales curves the other day?
Yes, and you thought we should be doing better.
Uh-huh. Well, so did the brass. Seems they've been analyzing trends and studying present economics. Measured against general business, our performance needs up.
Did they suggest how to go about it?
No. They just said something should be done. Now that I'm sales manager, they looked right at me when they said it.
But where have we fallen down, Dan? Certainly not on training.
No? I think we're doing a pretty good job on getting the basics across to the fellows. I think it's something else. Let's take another look at the records. Maybe we'll get a clue there. Yeah, here we are. Here's Harrigan. Up every month. Well up over last year.
Yes, there's a hot one. Been that way for a good many months, too.
Uh-huh. Phil Newman, up. Lou Young. Not so good. John Dudley, pretty good. Chet Wilson, about the same as last year. Jerry Miller is a good man. But these last few months, look how his volume's dropped. Wonder why?
Well, just seems to have run into a slack.
Well, the record shows that, but why?
Well, maybe for a lot of reasons.
Or does it boil down to one?
What are you driving at, Dan?
Well, I'm not sure. But I think I have an idea, and there's only one way to find out if I'm right. Why don't I get out on some calls with each of these men who hasn't been doing so good? Jerry Miller here. He'd be a good one to start with.
As I say, Miller, later perhaps. Right now, I don't think we're interested in your proposition. Maybe in a couple of months.
Well, sure, I'll give you a call.
Or better still, we'll call you if you want any further information.
Yeah, sure, either way. And I want you to know we certainly appreciate the time you've given us, and, well, we certainly hope that you'll be able to...
If you'll excuse me.
Did you get a chance to look over that proposal I left with you, Mr. Small?
Yes, I've given it some study, Miller, but frankly, it doesn't quite fill the bill. Oh, it's okay as far as it goes, all right, but...
As far as it goes?
Well, yes, you see, with this new setup that we put into effect several months ago, well, it sort of makes your recommendations out of date. At least incomplete.
New setup? Where have I been?
Oh, I'm sure I don't know. It's been in 4 months now.
You see how tough they can be? Just try to get some of them to think the way you do on a proposition. It's like driving up a mountain with your brakes on.
As I say, Jerry, somehow or other it just doesn't strike me as the time I should buy.
I think you're making a mistake, Mr. Johnson.
Maybe so, but I just don't feel right about it.
But that's what you said last time.
That's what I felt about it last time, too.
Well, of course, you're the boss, Mr. Johnson, but I just don't get your thinking on this matter.
Not many salesmen do, Jerry, that's a fact. Wish more of them did, frankly. I sure wish more of them did.
You see what I'm up against? Nobody's in a buying mood these days. Nobody.
Where next, Jerry?
I thought maybe we could knock off for the day. I've had it.
Okay. I'll see you at my office in the morning, huh?
Well, you saw for yourself how it was yesterday, Dan. I've been having a run of tough luck like that for months now. I guess I'm just unlucky.
Maybe you are, Jerry. On the other hand, you might be a lot luckier than you think.
I don't know about that.
Well, let's consider a few facts.
Oh, you want me to get my list of prospects?
No, I mean facts about you. For instance, you've got a wonderful family, right?
That I have, and you know it.
And everything's fine at home, I suppose?
Couldn't be better.
Okay. So right there is one way you're a mighty lucky man.
I thought you were talking business.
I am. No salesman can put out if there's friction at home. A man's home life carries over into his business. It shows up one way or another. Now, you've got a good family relationship, so I say you're lucky.
All right, so I'm lucky that way.
And in another way, too. Health.
Sure, I've got my health, as they say.
Still top man in the bowling?
Well, one of the top 4 would be a little more like it.
And what's this I hear about those hot softball games over at the Y?
The swell bunch, a lot of action.
So you're obviously a guy with a lot of energy, Jerry. So I say again, you're lucky. Because that same kind of zip and fire you have on the alleys and at the Y can be one of your biggest assets.
But when I go out on calls, well, you saw for yourself yesterday.
Yes, and I think I found a clue yesterday as to why it happens, too. At least to you, Jerry.
Let me have it straight.
All right. I think you've lost something, Jerry. Maybe this story will make the point. I know a fellow in the tire business. He's a fellow like you. Nice family, a lot of get up and go. Just a few years ago, he was starting out as a salesman. Today, he's a sales executive.
One of those guys with a lot of natural ability, I suppose.
Ability? Yes. Natural? No. No. He went along for quite some time, just just getting by. Then he started getting curious about rubber. One day in a library, he picked up a book. That led him to another, then another. He learned the whole story of rubber, every phase of the business. But he wasn't satisfied with that much knowledge. He even went beyond that. He saved up his money and took his vacation in South America and spent some time on the rubber plantations. Furthermore, he cashed in on what the trip cost him 10 times over, because the more extra knowledge he gathered, the more convincing his sales talk became. Naturally, sales volume increased. He became known as the guy who knows. And there's no getting around it, Jerry. People prefer to buy from a man who knows his stuff.
Well, now, you don't mean to say that a fella can get all whipped up just by studying.
Well, look at it this way, Jerry. With good family relations, you're in a good way to put your best into your job. With good health, you have the energy to put into your selling. And with extra knowledge, you have the ammunition to fire. Now, knowledge alone never sold anything. It's the confidence and self-assurance you get from extra knowledge. Because you always have to sell yourself to any person you're contacting. And if you think this isn't important, just think back to your own buying habits. Why, only yesterday you went out of your way to a particular filling station. Why? You said you liked the fellows at that station. You buy your ties and shirts at Pilson's. Why? You like the way Mr. Pilson treats you, the attention he gives you. And you always buy your hardware at the same store. Because of habit? Maybe. But more likely because the men there are interested in you and your projects. Remember telling me about your wife buying those cosmetics? She bought them because she liked the saleswoman who came to the door, felt she was sincere and helpful. Right? Right. When you get a reputation for being a square shooter, you give yourself a terrific sales advantage.
Oh, you're busy. Sorry.
No, come on in, George. We're just batting the breeze. I want to hear the rest of that story.
Van Horn?
Yeah. Jerry will be interested, too.
Well, Jerry, like I was telling Dan, I got a big kick out of landing that Van Horn order. It's a good big one for one thing, and I put a lot of work in it for another. Here's a case where I didn't just settle for the first no. In spite of his no, I had a good hunch he needed what we had. So I started digging into his business, into his operations, into his particular setup, into his buying methods, yeah, and into his selling methods, too. Before I was through, I knew Van Horn and his business practically inside out. Then I laid out a recommendation, tailor-made for Van Horn and his setup. I figured out all the reasons why he should buy, why it would be to his advantage in his business, his way of operating. Then I moved in. At first, he was cold, as always. Pretty soon, he stopped thinking of me as a salesman trying to sell him something, and he started to think of me as an expert who was helping him. From that moment on, he was with me. It was only a question of time. Man, I worked, but it was worth it. I not only got the sale, but there's one customer I'm in solid with from here on in. And by golly, I had a lot of fun. See you later.
What a locomotive. Always under a full head of steam.
Now, you call it steam, or call it spiz, or call it just plain old-fashioned enthusiasm. It pays off.
Say, what is this, a plot? First you talk about knowledge, then the whole point of your tire salesman story is lapping up knowledge, and then George comes in here and he stumps for knowledge.
Well, doesn't it make sense, Jerry? You can really become enthusiastic when you have that extra knowledge. You're quicker with the answers. You're more at ease. And you're more convincing when you not only know what you have to offer and know your customers' needs, but when you also have that additional background that makes you a recognized authority. And all it takes is some extra digging. Digging into booklets, manuals, pamphlets. Virtually every company puts out literature. And you can't beat the first-hand knowledge you get behind the scenes, whether it's a plant, an office, or even a man's home. Then there's the kind you can get from what's happened in the past. Background on a product, on a line of business, on the service you offer. Knowing what competition has to offer can be just as valuable as being an expert on your own business. What you can get by talking with key people. with the people who will actually use what you sell. The answers you get by simply asking questions. The stuff you can pick up from trade magazines, from business papers, from house organs, from the business news pages, vital statistics, personal items in the daily papers. From sources like those, Jerry, you can get the additional knowledge that'll make you an expert in your field. And when prospects raise questions such as these,
why should I buy from you?
what will it do for me?
How does the cost compare?
Why is it best? You, because you know, can speak with confidence, sincerity, enthusiasm. You get the point, Jerry?
I'd be pretty thick if I didn't, Dan. Yeah, you've really laid it out plain for me, but...
Yeah?
But there's a difference between some salesmen and others. Well, some have to work like the devil at it, and with others, well, selling comes natural and easy. Like with you, for instance.
Jerry, that's an old myth, and you know it. Good salesmen are made, not born.
Oh, I don't know, Dan. You always had the right answers.
Well, the heck I did. You remember these?
Sure.
Well, at one time, the whole business of selling quality had me stumped. I was convinced our prices were too high. I couldn't sell against competition. So one day I came in here to have it out with Mac. That was before he became vice president. He was heading up sales then. He introduced me to a slant on selling I'd been missing completely. The 4 good ways to sell quality. I began to watch how others did it. A dairy salesman convinced my wife. Showed her the added value she'd get by taking his milk. An insurance salesman showed what I would miss if I took away the extras his policy provided. I watched a friend of mine who runs a store while a silverware salesman sold quality by dividing the higher first cost by the extra years of service the customer gets. Then at a town council, there was the salesman for a machine. Price was high, but he sold multiple uses, so his price was proved low. Add, subtract, divide, multiply. The extra value we offer for the money. When Mac woke me up to what those 4 salesmen were really doing, I had the answers to selling quality. Another thing, you know, it isn't long since I was moved up. All of a sudden, the whole sales force is looking to me. I wasn't sure I had it either. Well, one thing I did was write to a lot of top management men to get their thinking. Some ideas I could pass along. I got answers from men who really know selling. Men who've become sales directors or even presidents of their company. I keep them right here. I often read them over again. Listen to this. Enthusiasm, in addition to useful knowledge, is perhaps the greatest asset of the successful salesman. That's from the president of an outstanding chemical company in Michigan.
Enthusiasm and knowledge. What do the rest of them say?
A Los Angeles executive for one of the largest hardware distributors says, take care of your health as well as your mind. You need energy and you need to keep yourself thoroughly informed. Now, the next letter is from the president of an Ohio company. Their machines are sold all over the world. Enthusiasm is the quality that makes a man study his products, study the needs of his potential customers, put in the extra hours, do the things that must be done if success is to come. The president of one of our big airlines says, to be enthusiastic, it's important to like people, to be sincere. Now, along that line, here's one from the president of a top-ranking Detroit manufacturing company. You can be sincere when you work on a foundation of facts. We use a definition, enthusiasm is knowledge on fire. Throughout these letters and all the others, Jerry, 4 points stand out. 1, good family relations. 2, energy, taking care of your health. 3, good business relations, the result of honesty, integrity, sincerity. What the tongue says, the heart must believe. 4, and probably the most important of all, knowledge. Knowing completely what you have to offer. Having the extra facts, knowing more than you have to. Those are the 4 points, the base on which to fire up genuine enthusiasm. Give it a try, Jerry. On here. You might take this pocket piece along. Maybe it'll help.
What is it, a good luck charm?
I'm afraid you need more than luck, Jerry. Let's call it a reminder.
A reminder?
Mm-hmm. Just a few months ago, Jerry, you were right up among the top-notchers. You had the kind of enthusiasm I've been talking about. Now, tomorrow when you go out on calls, let's see if you can't get it back again. Maybe this will help to remind you.
I'll sure give it a try.
That's so, Jerry. I was thinking of it. But the budget problem is an important consideration.
Well, Mr. Corbin, doesn't your expansion program bring on something new?
Well, yes. What do you mean?
Well, it looks like you're going to have to add 5 men.
How'd you figure that out?
It's based on your volume and type of equipment.
Well, that happens to be exactly what we're planning.
Well, then you'll need a different program, won't you?
That's just the problem.
Mr. Corbin, I've worked out a plan that'll fit right into your pocketbook and give you just what you need.
Didn't I tell you I'd give you a call if I wanted to see you?
Yes, you did, and I appreciate your giving me a minute today. But since I was here last, I've learned we can save you some money.
Oh? Well, how would you propose to do that?
Well, if you take us up on our proposal, you'll get more for your dollar.
You'll have to prove that to me.
I'd like to, Mr. Flint. Our suggestions are based on your present needs, and also looking ahead to your expected increase. By the way, you do look for the normal rise of 11% in your line at this time of year.
Oh, I'm sort of hoping that we'll do better. Hold on. You seem to know a lot about my business, Miller.
Well, I figure I have to if I'm going to give you good service. Mr. Flint, I've worked up an idea based on some facts I've put together, and I think...
Well, wait a minute. We can't talk out here, and you've caught me when I'm all tied up. Suppose you come in here tomorrow morning, say 9 o'clock.
I'll be here.
In my office. But remember, you'll have to show me.
These recommendations should take care of your situation. Should further changes occur, we stand ready to fill any additional needs on a pro rata basis. Now, in addition, Mr. Andrews, you know you get some pluses in dealing with us.
If I didn't know your quality story before, I sure know it now.
Would you like this to start now, or would you rather date it for, say, the 1st of the month?
You know, this is a big contract, Miller. Be the biggest I ever considered for this kind of a thing.
Yes, it is.
And it should be given a lot of going over. But looks like you've done a lot of my work for me.
Oh, you're looking for me, Dan?
Yeah, come on in, Jerry. Sit down. Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, another nice chunk of business. Just came to my desk. Nice going.
Thanks. Oh, by the way, Dan, did you know that the essential for success in any kind of selling is enthusiasm?
Well, now that you mention it, it seems to me I have heard tell, yeah.
And enthusiasm is the difference between an average producer and outstanding selling success.
It's very interesting, Jerry. Where'd you pick that up?
Well, I was talking to a fellow recently on this most important subject, and in the meantime, I've done some exhaustive research on my own.
Been hitting some real pay dirt, too, I'd say.
Yeah? Well, maybe it was because of the chat I had with this fellow, or maybe it was this.
Brought you luck, huh?
Well, I don't know about the luck part, but the little symbols on this pocket piece kept reminding me of 4 important things. Home. Good family relations. Energy. Looking after your health. Sincerity. For good customer relations. Knowledge. Getting that extra information.
Didn't you find when you had all the facts it gave you more confidence?
Well, it made me more sure of myself, I suppose.
You suppose? Jerry, hasn't it dawned on you yet? That's the heart of it. This is how you develop the power of enthusiasm. This is how you've been doing it, whether you realize it or not. Here, let me show you what I mean. Now, suppose this represents the amount of knowledge a salesman needs in the line of duty, just to do an average job. Now, this is just what you've got to know, but that's only the start of it. more knowledge. Gives you confidence. When you stop learning, your confidence slips, and your enthusiasm sure takes a nosedive. Then to develop the full power of enthusiasm in selling, you get all you can learn. More and more and more. You dig up facts. You absorb knowledge far beyond what you're expected to have. You catch fire. You set your customer on fire. It's contagious. That's how you develop the power of enthusiasm, Jerry. Don't you agree?
I sure do.
Well, now that we both know how, let's keep on building that power of enthusiasm, Jerry. You with me?
All the way, Dan.
Oh.
This man is an actor.
Dan, you ready?
He has been assigned today to play your part, a territorial salesman for Seal Test Foods. We'll call him Bob Fowler. Now, everything Bob Fowler will say here, every word, everything he will be asked to do, was said and done in actual practice by those of you whose part he plays today. So all you have to do is sit back, watch, and compare Bob Fowler's experiences and sales techniques with your own. Compare his results with yours. And keep in mind, it all really happened.
Roll down. Hey, camera. Six. Scene one, take one, sound one. Action.
Day. Like they say on TV, what kind of day was it? A day like any other. Only it's starting earlier on account of the sales meeting.
Now, there's one thing that none of us should forget. That film on market research that we all saw at last year's meeting. Remember it? Well, I don't pretend to remember all the facts and figures either. But one thing sticks out very clearly in my mind, and it's this. The market research people found out that even a small increase in space means a big increase in sales. Well, they found out that when we occupy up to 15% of the dairy case, we can expect that our share of the sales is going to be about 22%. That's only fair. When we get 20% of the case for Seal Test, we also increase our sales. But now our share of the sales is 29%. That's much better. In those stores where some of you men put Seal Test in 33% of the case, we had 39% of the buyers. Now that's very interesting. Well, I don't think that we've given that idea a very fair chance. Every single one of us here has accounts that can stand some little improvement. I mean, an extra row, a few more items, a new display even. So I've got an idea to start a campaign to get that increase. Here, take a look. Now, what I think we ought to do is for you guys to get to the store owners, to the managers.
Well, I guess there never was a sales manager who didn't ask for more sales. Or a salesman who didn't think he was already giving his all for the company. Well, all Russ is asking for is a little improvement. I guess I can give him that. If I can really get more volume by adding one more row, well, I'm all for it. Maybe old man Pierce will listen to that profit story and give us a couple rows or a better spot in his case.
So Bob Fowler gave it a try, stopped worrying about the one big sale he couldn't seem to make, and went to work on a whole lot of little sales he thought he could get. He found the customer record cards were the perfect way of tracking down the accounts that needed improvement. And the sales figures on the cards gave him powerful leverage in talking to store managers.
So when I checked the records on your store, Mr. Pierce, it even surprised me. You're selling a lot of seal test milk. That's right. In fact, you're selling twice as much as you did a year ago. Here.
I sell more seal tests out of that case than any two of your competitors put together.
Well, if you'd let me move seal tests up to first position, which your own invoices prove we deserve, and give me one more row of half-gallons, I think we could...
Can't do it. You can do anything you want with that case, but it won't stretch. I gotta put other milk in there. People ask for it. Maybe next year when I get the new case.
We can put our milk first, but if Pierce won't cut anybody down, there just isn't an inch for us to gain. Russ claims we can get an increase in sales even if there's no increase in space. Well, here's my chance to do a real job of proper case stocking.
Even after Bob Fowler realigned the products in the case, it didn't look much different to the untrained eye. One or two slow-moving items gave way, others were repositioned. It paid off in $43 more sales the first month, even when no space could be found in the dairy section. Pierce's didn't have any space, but Mr. Pierce was cooperative. Crown's, a small independent, had the space, but wasn't interested.
Mr. Crown, we've got a new flavored cottage cheese that you ought to try. We've been having awfully good luck with it.
Flavored? No, we don't do much even with plain.
Well, what I'd like to suggest is a demonstration. Bring in a portable merchandiser and a demonstrator. It'll give you extra traffic. With your permission, I'd like to set it up for 2 weeks from Saturday, if it's all right with you. Well, that's a good weekend. Paychecks aren't as fat as they are the week before, and as I said, it'll provide traffic and give folks a chance to sample our new cottage cheese.
Well...
And you'll get some extra sales on a slow weekend.
Well, a demonstration. All right, Bob. Let me see now. When did you say that date was?
Fowler had never before been able to sell this man on flavored cottage cheese. But after the demonstration, he gained and kept a row in the case. The payoff? About $20 more sales every month. Nothing big, but it was $20 created by thoughtful use of demonstrations.
Hi, Sam. Boss got you working for a change?
Yeah, he finally decided to clean out the milk cases. Boy, they needed it.
Hello, Mr. Stone. I see you're cleaning out the case.
Yeah, we had some leakers, and the case was in pretty bad shape anyway.
What about letting me give you a hand setting it up?
No, thanks, Bob. That won't be necessary.
Oh, that's part of my job, Mr. Stone, what I get paid for. I'm just suggesting if I could help.
Well, if you're sure, I could use Chester back in the meat section. They're short-handed all this week. Tell you what, Bob, why don't you get that grocery case?
Fowler got his chance to help rearrange the dairy case. He picked up a little space here and there, 2 rows of quarts and 1 of half-gallons. The sales increase over a year ago, $387 a month.
$145, $189, $156, $159, $162. I guess that's about it, Bob.
Okay, Ed, just a second till I total it up. It's worse than I thought. Here, take a look. Your sales are sure down.
Well, according to what you tell me, that a product's got to earn the space it takes up. Maybe we ought to cut down another row and see how that does. I don't like to do it, Bob, but you got to pull your own weight. You said it yourself.
I said it, and I'll stick to it, Ed. But let me show you why we can't.
Seal test sales were down all right, but by frankly admitting it, Bob Fowler convinced Eddie Payne, the dairy manager, of his honesty and his willingness to take responsibility for bad sales. But he pointed out to Eddie Payne that the store wasn't giving Seal Test a fair trial. The case was such a hodgepodge of competing products that none of them had more than a couple of facings. Instead of cutting Seal Test back, Payne finally agreed to give Bob 2 more rows of half-gallons and another row of quarts. It was worth $104 more over monthly sales the year before. Bob began keeping his eyes open for opportunities to put up point-of-sale material. He found most store managers welcomed it, if it didn't get in their way. They figured, rightly, that it helped sales. He learned a little trick of fastening the price rail snap-ins with transparent tape. It kept them from being accidentally moved or knocked down by kids or competitors. The payoff? Fowler found that point-of-sale material alone brought increased sales of $12 to $25 a month. And he figured part of his job was keeping an eye on competition. When something new turned up in the case, he made a note of it and phoned it in when he called the office. Bob began making a friend and partner of his rootman. He took time to keep Al Roush informed. He realized if Al wasn't sold on a product or promotion, it stood less of a chance. So he tried to enlist Al's enthusiasm. Wherever Roush had friends or a good personal contact in the store, Bob let Al carry the ball. And when Al had an idea that seemed workable, Fowler made a point of putting it to work, and seeing his route men got full credit. Together, they made a pretty good team.
Johnson over at the Durham store is giving us 2 extra rolls of cottage cheese, and they're letting us put in a demonstration of the flavor 2 weeks from Saturday. That's the 30th at Kroger 211. For the dip, I'll take care of setting up the merchandiser.
Okay. Anything else going on?
You still friendly with, what's his name? Harmon over at the 7-Eleven?
Yeah, except his little leaguers beat mine. I see a lot of Ben. He's okay.
Ask him, will you, to take us out from behind that jog in the wall and put us down where people can find us.
Well, sure. What else are friends for if they can't do you a little favor?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Take it easy on the way around.
I'll see you, Al.
Bye now.
Fowler made a big point of getting around to his stores on Fridays and Saturdays to pull up the milk. It let his route man know that Bob was on his side, willing to help. And since none of the competition bothered to do the same, it gave Fowler an edge over the others in sales. And while he was pulling up the milk, Bob kept his eyes and ears open. One day it paid off.
Hey, Tom, these guys have let you run out of both skim and half and half. 3 strikes and out. That's the 3rd time that's happened, and I told them if they let me run out one more time, I'd throw them out. Look, see if you can get out to bring me over some of your milk.
Oh, Al's on his way to Far Hills Shopping Center. But we can get you all the product you want, say, in 45 minutes.
Well, how are you going to get them turned around and back here in 45 minutes?
I thought I'd just put the skim and half in the trunk of my car and bring it out myself.
Well, make sure you bring enough.
Oh, you can count on me, Tom. I'll bring plenty.
Good boy.
Still another instance of putting the little things to work. This manager had at first split his milk business 4 ways, with each company getting an equal share. By offering service when the chips were down, by being alert, Bob Fowler virtually shut out one competitor and picked up new business for himself, amounting to $203 more sales a month. The examples and actual case histories multiply. Sometimes it was smart planning, as when Fowler asked the plant employees to let the store managers know who they were.
I'm so glad you've opened up a store here. After I drop my husband at seal test, I can shop here before I go home.
It's a good thing you carry seal test. My brother's night foreman at the plant, and he won't let any other kind of milk in the house.
By taking advantage of employee purchases, Bob was able to get a first position in the case, worth $148 in monthly sales. Sometimes it was just plain luck, plus being on the ball. Bob saw the calculator, realized it must be a special inventory. Asked some questions, and was the first salesman to meet the new manager. Fowler asked for more space, got it, and got increased sales of $198. Other men in other markets confirmed Bob Fowler's success with the idea more space equals more sales, with little unspectacular attentions that paid off. Got cheese in the store on the basis of garden salad program. $160 more sales a month. Gained 3 rows by asking rootmen to make an extra delivery on weekends. $358 more sales a month. Helped manager rearrange case. Picked up more space for byproducts. $67 more sales a month. got permission to run a wire across store for merchandising. $76 more sales a month. As many examples and instances of success as there are salesmen interested in getting full value for their time. Yet it all comes down to a few simple techniques. Telling the profit story, getting enough space, proper case stocking, working as a team with the rootman, using his contacts and leverage to get sales, pointing out employee purchases, alertness to personnel changes, proper use of point of sale, creative use of demonstrations, exchanging slow-moving items for fast-moving, high-profit items. Well, what sort of a day was it? A day, a series of days, weeks, like any other. No grandstand catches, no touchdown runs. A day that Bob Fowler and dozens like him used to the full to make little gains in their business. The sort of a sales-minded day that is the essential building block for a successful, sales-minded year. So what sort of year was it? For Fowler and the men he stands for, a good one. A good one for every seal test salesman who took advantage of these simple, day-by-day, money-making ideas we've been dramatizing.
Wet weather is a challenge to every driver. Visibility is restricted. You need a longer distance to stop. Hit the brakes, and you can lose control of the car. Skid crashes kill about 10,000 people every year and injure another 300,000. Few motorists realize that skidding can be so deadly. Why are there so many skid accidents in the rain? Man, his car, and the road on which he drives can all be blamed. High speeds on a rain-soaked road, tires that are worn or soft, a road covered with oil drippings and rubber. Each, in itself or in combination, can hurtle a car into a wild, uncontrollable skid. The most deadly skid of all is tire hydroplaning. This may happen to any driver in wet weather. And when it does, he may never live to tell about it. What is tire hydroplaning? At 30 miles an hour, your tires are in full contact with a rain-soaked road. But as you accelerate, a wedge of water begins to penetrate between the tire and the pavement. At 55, the water may penetrate all the way. Your front tires are riding on a solid sheet of water, just like water skis. In fact, they may stop turning, even though you're going 55 miles an hour. Hydroplaning was identified by researchers of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. While trying to find out why planes overshoot or skid off wet runways, they found that a thin film of water can lift a plane's tires off the ground. Here, in slow motion, is a simulated landing at NASA's test track at Langley, Virginia. This hydroplaning tire spins down and stops, even though the landing gear is moving at a speed over 100 miles an hour. What can we do about hydroplaning? A simple but effective solution has been devised to prevent tire hydroplaning of automobiles and aircraft.
Narrow grooves are cut into the pavement without affecting its strength and smoothness. At this airfield, a runway is being grooved by special machines equipped with diamond cutting heads. The working end of this machine contains a battery of circular saw blades. The cutting edges hold small industrial diamonds, similar to those used in many industrial applications. The diamond blades cut shallow grooves to any specified width and depth. Water is pumped onto the blades to keep them cool. On runways, safety grooves are cut across the plane's direction of travel. Runways have been grooved at National Airport in Washington, Kennedy in New York, and Midway in Chicago, among others. Runways have also been grooved at military bases. Airline pilots who have landed on grooved runways during rainy weather say that stopping distances have been reduced by more than 1,000 feet. These grooves are 1/4 inch wide and 1/4 inch deep, with approximately a 1 inch space between grooves. How do these grooves prevent hydroplaning? When hydroplaning occurs, a solid film of water keeps the front tires from making contact with the road. But when the pavement is grooved, the tire forces the water out through the grooves. This permits the tire to maintain road contact. As with runways, grooves in highways give better drainage of the road surface by furnishing escape routes for the water. This machine grooves in the direction of the traffic. It has diamond-studded cylinders which are grouped side by side on a rotating shaft. Like all grooving machines, it can be used on both highways and runways. Safety grooves do not affect the way your car rides or handles. In fact, they help to maintain your car's directional stability. This is another type of grooving machine. It cuts grooves across the width of the road. It, too, uses diamond-studded cylinders. This vehicle is self-contained. It carries all necessary equipment and its own water tank. California has completed more than 30 safety grooving projects on its highways. Their studies show, on a section of the Santa Ana freeway, there were 48 wet weather accidents in the year before grooving. In the year after, there was only one. San Bernardino Freeway, 26 accidents before grooving, no accidents after. Route 99, 5 accidents before, no accidents after. Golden State Freeway, 9 accidents before, no accidents after. Other highway departments report similar results, especially from grooving dangerous curves and bridges. Each machine can also be used to remove bumps and irregularities from new and old road surfaces. This means a smoother ride for the motorist. The safety grooving process can be carried out quickly and economically. at any time of the day or night without interfering with the flow of traffic. Every motorist can take defensive measures against tire hydroplaning and other forms of skidding. First, slow down when the roads are wet. Speed contributes to hydroplaning. Second, keep good tires on your car and see that they're properly inflated. A soft tire is more likely to hydroplane. Third, be alert for standing water or puddles, especially on curves. Fourth, increase following distances to give yourself more time to stop. Your safest bet is to ride on safety-grooved roads. And someday you will, wherever you drive.
But when Ken showed me that snapshot taken in Paris with those showgirls, why I
Don't you
never
worry,
thought
I
of
took
it.
that picture myself. Well, believe you me, when Tom and I go to Europe, I'm going to make sure he takes me there. But seriously, though, Mary, you and Ken must have had a wonderful trip.
Lou, I can't tell you how exciting it was. And remember what a hard time I had talking Ken into it at all?
Oh, yes.
One day it was off, the next it was on.
Oh, I certainly do.
Yes, I admit I wasn't very hot about it in the beginning. 7 countries, 28 days, all the arrangements, foreign languages. I was worn out just thinking about it. By a...
No fishing trip with the boys.
You're right.
Tom, this year I was bound and determined we were going to do something together.
Oh, movies tonight.
Oh, Ken, you dog. And with a captive audience. And listen, I don't want to hear you say, pardon me for a moment if I have to suffer through what you do, too.
Oh, okay, I'll suffer.
Oh, look at his expression. Don't look so hurt. We're dying to see your movies. Why, what do you think we came over here for tonight? I wouldn't have missed them for the world. Hurry up, hurry up.
Okay, I'm hurrying.
Say, I didn't know you were a camera bug, Ken.
Oh, I'm really not. Just before the trip, I bought a simple movie camera with a built-in meter. Aimed it, pushed the button. Lou, will you get the lights, please?
My, that's a pretty picture.
Oh, quiet, Louise.
Oh, that is terrific.
A wonderful show, Ken.
Can't Tom and I make the same trip next year?
You know, I've always wanted to go to Spain. Do they have one of these tours that includes Spain?
Oh, of course, Tom. All the countries this side of the Iron Curtain are included in one or more of the tours. Mary, would you get me the travel bag with the brochures in it, please? Where till I show you? Every member of the party received one of these tour bags. for personal articles. This meant we did not have to go into our luggage while traveling. Here, look at these brochures that they give us before we even start on the trip in order that we can plan where we wish to go. This saves a lot of time when you get over there. For instance, England, Paris. That's nice. Italy, Germany, and the Rhine River. Now, don't worry, Louise, about getting wet because the river flows this way.
Well, I'm sure glad it does.
We could have rented a car through the AAA if we wanted to stay longer than the regular tour, or if we had gone over independently. As it was, we bought our small car through them and had it shipped home after we left Europe. The AAA has thought of everything for the convenience of its touring friends and members. And the high type of men they employ as club escorts are outstanding. Their solution of every situation is marvelous. You can't help but have a wonderful time.
Oh, Tom, what do you say? Let's go next year.
If you folks are serious, I'll make an appointment for you with the local AAA foreign travel agent. Well, but we're not members, Ken. Well, that makes no difference, Tom. These tours are for non-members as well as members. Well, what does all this cost? Well, they told us that these tours are designed for every pocketbook and taste. And they begin at about $900. Well, that's not bad at all.
That's wonderful, darling.
Oh, look.
Oh, the doll. Oh, isn't she adorable?